Wyoming legend Chris Ledoux. I'm not sure what his name is because I've never heard it pronounced, and I can't even pronounce things when they're pronounced to me, as we just saw with Vivek. Chuck Box joins me, C.J. Box, author of this book, the brand new Stormwatch by the none other than C.J. who's standing there. Stormwatch is going to be a #1 New York Times bestseller. It's a fabulous book. C.J., how do you say Chris, whatever that is?
It's Chris Ledoux. Ledoux.
If you said it rhymed with Hugh, I would remember that. You're wearing a ball cap and not a Stetson. I've never seen you in a ball cap before.
Well, I usually don't wear a cowboy hat in a hotel room. I'm starting the book tour today, so I'm out and about.
Yeah, CJ, the book drops on March 7th. Why are you doing a book tour on February 27th?
The book drops tomorrow, February 28th. So
the Amazon website is wrong then.
Oh, I'll have to look at that. I didn't know that. Yeah, it's tomorrow. It's debuts nationwide. I'm in Scottsdale, starting 2 events today, and then on to Dallas tomorrow.
Where are you going to be in Scottsdale today?
I'm going to be in Sun City West at a library, and then at the Poison Pen bookstore.
Poison Pen. They love you. You're going to go to Tattered Cover Bookshelf in Denver as well. You always go there in the past. I didn't see it on the list.
Yeah, well, actually, happily, we've outgrown Tattered Cover. So now they have it in a big art center in Highlands Ranch where they can put 400 people.
Well, congratulations. You'll be signing books forever. Stormwatch is fabulous, Chuck. And I did something I normally don't do is I finished the book, so I have to be careful that I don't give anything away. Let me start by asking you, is Wyoming meteorologist Don Day real, or did you make that up?
He is real. Everybody
I thought so.
Every day. Yes.
So that, because there are times when you just throw in names and I don't get it. Now, the other thing, out here we're raining and it's snowing a lot, and you talk about the metallic taste in the air often when you talk about storms. Is that what it really tastes like?
Just prior to a snowstorm, yes. You can feel it in the air. It has a different taste, almost a different smell, but certainly a different feel. And I can tell you, Hugh, that this book is so prescient because this year has been the worst winter of my memory where we live on our little ranch. We have 3 feet of snow. It just keeps snowing. It never melts. I spend all day long on skid steers just plowing out.
Well, the things that I learned about snow. First of all, have you been collecting snow quotes for 30 years? Because there are snow quotes everywhere in here.
I have. I'm a kind of a predator for quotes, kind of like you are, I think.
Yeah.
Everything I read, I just keep a long file on my computer of quotes that I see, snatches of poems, lyrics, anything I can use that I may use in the future. And in this case, I used every one of my snow quotes in one book. So
let's talk about being at the top of your game. I think you're at the top of your game. This is your 23rd Joe Pickett novel. Joe Pickett is now on Paramount Television. They're filming the 2nd season now, or is it already in the can?
It's already in the can. Season 2 will start in just a couple of months. I don't have a hard date yet.
I can't wait. I really love season 1, but I had forgotten the first book. By the time we got around to, I was saying, oh, they've changed this plot line. And you told me, no, you're getting old and you can't remember things. Did a lot of people say that to you?
A few did. I don't think I told you you are getting old. You can't remember things.
Well, that's what that was implied.
23 years is okay.
23 years of Joe Pickett novel. Well, I'm so happy for this book because once again, you're prescient and not just about the weather. You're prescient about storylines that develop and about, I'm going to say generally, is the FBI broken? Is that a fair way to say without saying too much?
I think it is. I think that's a fair way. You know what, Hugh? I get so much information, material, news, and ideas from listening to the Hugh Hewitt Show every single day that you may say I'm prescient, but I'm just listening to you. And I learn a lot, and then I further research it, and it works its way into the book.
Well, I got to tell everyone, in case you were waiting to find out, Judge Hewitt indeed makes a brief cameo because he's got to issue to Joe. He don't make a habit of it, Joe. I think he's made a habit of it over 23 years, hasn't he?
Yes, he has. He's always bothering him, and
And
always
he's
disturbing
walking
him.
outside and he sounds wheezy and tired, Chuck. So I'm wondering, do I sound wheezy and tired to you? I was at Judge Hewitt is wearing down.
Well, sometimes during the grand old pod, you start to sound a little tired, but generally no.
You know, and I want the audience to know Dwayne isn't back, and he's never coming back. But you have to read all the Joe Pickett stuff. Let's start with a other things that you learned. The Integra Renata RV. I've never heard of one until I read Stormwatch. Are they all over Wyoming now?
No, they're pretty rare, really. That RV was actually featured in an earlier book with the same driver, the same guy, which we won't reveal who he is. But no, it's one of the most expensive RVs in existence, and it was purchased. Well, I could say by a guy. He had a pension, a federal pension that was big enough that he could buy the most expensive RV in the United States and drive it
That's
around.
enough of a clue. That's enough of a clue.
Yeah.
Well, I want to assure people that Missy is back. You know, there's some people who come back in almost every book, and Missy shows up a little bit early, so people won't find out. But Missy is back. That's not giving away much. Everybody's back, but not everyone makes it to the end of this thing. And that's what's interesting about Chuck Box. You're willing to lose characters, and that keeps people on the edge of their seat. I'm not going to say anything more. How hard is Stormwatch to write vis-a-vis the other books that you've written?
This one was very challenging because I wanted to try to do something I'd never done before, and that was bring everybody into the book and have multiple storylines going, and then have it all conclude in what I thought of as kind of like a Godfather type ending with a bunch of things happening to tie up everything. The entire book was written while I was injured last summer with a foot injury, sitting in a chair, not fishing, not golfing, not doing anything. And I had a lot of time to really concentrate on tying up all these storylines.
Not everybody comes back. Dwayne just said in my ear. That's because Dwayne Patterson doesn't come back. They didn't even stop
No,
by the grave. They didn't even stop by the grave. So I don't want to recommend this. I don't want you to get injured again. But did that help or hurt the writing process?
I have to admit, in a way, it kind of helped because I had to concentrate more. I had no choice, and to pull it all together, it's a very complicated book. I don't want to
Oh
say
my
that
goodness,
to scare
yes.
any readers off, but a lot of things going on, but they all get tied up. They all get figured out.
What is the animal? Is it a marmot? What is that animal?
It's a marmot. It's a great big fat rodent that hangs out usually in high elevations and it jumps up in rocks and screams at you. But in this case, there's hundreds of marmots that have occupied a house.
But have you ever actually experienced marmot occupation?
Yes, yes. That's based on a real place about 10 minutes from where I live. Every time you start to walk by, we walk our dogs every day. Walk by, it's perfectly quiet. You can hear the river. Then all of a sudden, these marmots all rush to the windows and start screaming.
And they whistle or they have this high pitched deal. I mean, that would spook me. I wouldn't walk past that house.
Yeah, one name for a marmot is a whistle pig. That's
A whistle pig. That's it.
Cowboys called them. And yeah,
Are you allowed to shoot them?
Yes, and I have shot many.
Okay, just checking in on that. I also note that on page 152, a coexist bumper sticker comes up. And it's an aside, but it's a much welcome aside because I hate the coexist bumper sticker, usually coexisting with absolutely inveterately held opinions that are abusive of other people who disagree.
Yes, and not only on bumper sticker, but it's on a green Subaru, with Colorado license plates, which tells you everything about the occupant.
Now, to America, this will not surprise you. Joe Pickett is now 53, and he's getting older. And so he's not taking Relief Factor yet, but that could be in 24. In terms of aging, Chuck, do you see, you're much younger than Joe, so do you see this ever running down? Is Joe going to retire someday?
Actually, I'm older than Joe, But I don't have a big grand plan, Hugh. I go book to book in real time, and I just kind of have figured out I'm probably, when Joe's ready to retire, I probably will be too. Not every book is a year from the last one. Some are just a couple months, some are back to back. So at this point, it's going much slower than it did earlier. But I like the idea of the real time because then you can track Joe, track the family, watch them grow up, watch them do different things. It keeps the books fresh for me, and I hope the readers.
Well, it's very fresh, and in fact, I'm trying to remember which book. Joe's had snowmobile and truck and snow issues before. He had to abandon a truck in snow. Which book was that in? Do you remember?
I think it's in about three of them where
Okay,
he's
well,
had
he
to
does.
climb. It got stuck, got to climb out. That happens all the time.
Well, he left one in up in the middle of nowhere once, and of course, he always loses his truck. But there are some recurring themes. There's a recurring couple of political characters as well. What is the Wyoming political elite, which, by the way, is deadlocked right now because their speaker won't pass universal school reform, even though it's like a 99% Republican state legislature, but their speaker is black. What does the Wyoming political elite think of you?
I think I certainly know the governor is a big fan. Many of the legislators are. Some of them, I think, don't read a book, Hugh. So I don't know if they know anything at all. I have not had a lot of influence with them when I've testified on behalf of like film incentive programs, other things. Um, uh, so I don't know. In Wyoming, it's all red, and the differences between uh, Republicans and the far right. That's the state.
Oh, yeah. My friend Ruth Marcus retreats to Wyoming every summer. And Wyoming is two states. There's a summer Wyoming and there's a rest of the year Wyoming. Does the
Right.
summer Wyoming read Chuck Box?
Yes, yes. It's a few years ago that I publisher actually said was looking at sales numbers and said, "How many people live in Wyoming?" And I said about 600,000. And she said, "Has all of them bought the books then?" Because there aren't that many people, but yes, they do. The books are well read.
Chuck, take us a little bit into the marketing thing because I don't want to give anything away. It's really an intricately plotted page turner, and I rarely finish a spy novel or a mystery novel because I don't want to give away anything. But I did this time because I couldn't stop. So take us instead into the marketing business. When you're Chuck Box or C.J. Box and you have a brand like Joe Pickett, you don't have to work very hard. But like Ken Follett, you work very hard. Why? To promote that which you know will sell.
Well, I feel like that's my job. It's just like writing the book. I mean, I write every day. I go to work every day. And some days aren't as long as others. But then when the book comes out and prior to that, I always feel like I partner with the publisher. And that's my part. That's what I can bring to it is to do
Yeah,
every
you know
single
what
thing they
Follett
ask.
has told me twice? He's always looking for the marginal reader, meaning he wants a new reader. He wants somebody who has
Yep.
never picked up a Ken Follett book. So if someone picks up Stormwatch, do you think they'll go back to the beginning to number one and read the 22 in between?
Well, that tends to happen with every book. We can actually see it in the sales figures. Every book has outsold the last one, and then following that, the what they call the backlist of all the books does a little bump as people then go back to the very first book and start working their way through it. And one of the weirdest things, I never want to do it again, go through it again, but the pandemic was very, very good to me. An awful lot of people who looked at the 20 book series, didn't have time to read it, then had the time. And I got email after email, usually from men saying, I have just read all of the books because I've been sitting at home. Yeah, and so it strangely enough was a benefit.
Chuck Box on Stormwatch, obviously you've got on the back of your mind is the Michigan plot to kidnap the governor or not, depending on what you think. Is that feeding into this?
Yes, yes, that is. There are so many things that happen in the West, in the western part of the U.S., as you know, because there's so much federal land. State of Wyoming's 50% owned by the federal government, meaning the people who control the economy, everything, are appointed by Washington, not elected by people. So therefore, the conflicts are there, and it's just sort of a natural thing. We are much closer to the federal government than almost anywhere else, except maybe Washington D.C., because we deal with bureaucrats daily, which creates big conflict.
Now, I have not heard, and I can talk about this without giving much away. I had never heard of shed hunters before. And I want you just to tell people, because this is why I read CJ. I read CJ for good stories, but I also learn something I've never known and unlikely ever to learn about wildlife. And I did not know that you could drive elk and other animals into a forest to early shed, and it's disastrous for them. Would you explain the process?
Yeah, it's totally ill. Shed hunting itself is very legal and has turned into quite a big deal because traders will buy sheds, discarded antlers, for up to
Discarded antlers.
$25 a pound. And an average elk has 80 or 90 pounds of antlers. So that adds up. That's a pretty good payday. And May 1st is the legal date for people to go into the woods and pick up sheds and save them. But there are unscrupulous people who try to get them early and have methods of getting sheds. And a local game warden told me about the one that's in the book where people on snowmobiles drive herds of elk into heavy timber to knock their antlers off and gather them up early.
Yeah, I was amazed by that. I learned more biology from C.J. Box books than I ever learned in high school. But if you find a shed prior to May 1, and that's an antler that has been rubbed off by the elk or by the moose in order to grow a new pair, I don't even know why they do that. I don't know why they don't stick around forever. But is it illegal to pick up a shed before May 1?
Not on private land, but on public land, yes, it is.
Okay, and $25 a pound. That's a
Right.
lot of. I like high school kids out there hunting for shed on May 1.
Yes, they are. And a little known fact is the Jackson Hole Boy Scouts have been, for years and years and years, have been the designated group to go pick up sheds on the National Elk Refuge, and they have millions of dollars in their account. And I grew up Casper going camping in the mountains for Boy Scouts, and the Jackson Hole Boy Scouts go to Costa Rica. They have lots of money.
Yeah. There's going to be a plot detail in the future down there. All right, last question, Checkbox. Stormwatch is great, and you're going to sell another gazillion books. What are you going to do a one-off this year as well? Is Casey coming? I mean, what's happening next in Chuck Box's literary life?
I'm working on the next Joe Pickett book right now. There won't be another standalone, at least next year. But I'm somewhat involved with the TV series now, so I'm a busy guy. Things are, it's hard to keep up with everything. But I also want to make up for all the fishing and hunt and golfing that I didn't get done last year. This year.
Where are you filming Joe Pickett?
It is shot in Calgary, at a little town outside of Calgary that looks a lot like how I imagine Saddle String.
Are you taking notes on Canada for a future novel?
Not really. It is that part of Canada is so similar to Wyoming and the Rocky Mountain West, politically, culturally, how it looks, how the people are, that it's so similar that I don't need to take notes.
But you know what I learned this weekend, because my son's father-in-law is Canadian now, naturalized American, is that if you're in the Canadian healthcare system and you're sick, you can't leave the country or they won't insure you when you come back. You got to get a permission slip to leave the country. And I didn't know that about Canada, so I assume there are some unique things. Have you enjoyed being in Canada a lot?
Yes and no. The last time I went to visit the set, I was one of the random people that the Canadian government selected to go and undergo really, really onerous COVID testing. On my own, I had to go to a pharmacy. I had to pick up a special government COVID test. I had to drop off the sample on the front step of the hotel so that they could come in hazmat suits and pick it up. It took 4 days of rigmarole. And then by the time the test results came back, I had been back in Wyoming for a week. And of course, negative all the way around.
Canadian, we love. I found out that Montreal is well known for smoked meats, which I didn't know until. There's lots I don't know about Canada. It's sort of like Wyoming. I'm just putting that seed out there. There's got to be a Joe Pickett Goes to Canada novel. Congratulations on Stormwatch. Chuck, where do people find your book tour data? CJBoxAuthor.com?
Well, it's cjbox.net. That's got the schedule. And then also I put it out on all social media, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. I don't.
CJBox.net. Stormwatch is fabulous. Keep turning them out. I got to read something that I like. I often have to read things I don't like. I love my Joe Pickett fix. Thank you, Chuck Box. Congratulations on Stormwatch. I expect it will be #1 on the New York Times shortly. Keep writing them. I'll keep talking to you.
Thank you so much, Hugh. I appreciate it.
I appreciate you. Thank you, my friend. Bye-bye.